Williams Bay, Wisconsin at Yerkes Observatory.
This is Emily Irwin. She's the marketing and communication lead. So if you could just tell us a little bit about the history. I know it started with George Hale.
Yes, Yerkes Observatory actually opened in 1897. Construction started in 1895, so they worked quickly to build this building. And George Ellery Hale was a professor at the University of Chicago in the astronomy department, and he wanted the university to have an observatory, and so he really pushed for it, and the university actually approached a man named Charles Yerkes. The University of Chicago had this place where they could take their students. It was located here in Williams Bay because it was away from the light and the pollution of Chicago, and all thanks to George Ellery Hale and Charles Yerkes, and all the people who wanted this place to be here for the students and for all the great astronomy work that would be done here.
And when you walk in, there's some stunning architecture, if you could talk about that.
Sure. So a man named Henry Ives Cobb was the architect. He actually did a lot of work in Chicago and had designed some buildings for the university before, so he was a natural fit. But yes, when you walk in, it's not like what you would imagine a university observatory would be. There's a lot of detail. There are columns that are carved. There's a skylight. I mean, there's just all this gorgeous architecture that you wouldn't expect. And Henry Ives Cobb really wanted this to be a space that was, functional, so that the students, that all the research, the work here could be done, but also beautiful. And of course, with all of the funding they received from Charles Yerkes, they were able to make this building that is just visually stunning. And there's a mosaic tile work on the floor of our rotunda. That's where you first walk in. There are owls carved on the walls, just to symbolize, the night sky work that was being done here, and it was also Charles Yerkes' favorite animal, supposedly. You'll also see Charles Yerkes' face all over this building. I believe his face appears 256 times just in the rotunda alone. He's also on the outside of the building on the columns. It was sort of an homage to him, and also he feels like he's looking down on all of us here at the observatory and his namesake all these years later.
Here at Yerkes, the biggest attraction is 82 tons of pure wonder.
And obviously the refracting telescope makes this a very unique place, so if you could talk about that.
Sure. So Yerkes has the largest refracting telescope in the world. And what makes a refracting telescope is that it has two lenses at the end, whereas today telescopes are generally reflecting telescopes, so they use mirrors. With a refracting telescope, this one is 40 inches, so the diameter of that lens is 40 inches. That's one piece of glass, and there are two of them, so you can only imagine how heavy and how large that is. And that's why there weren't a lot of telescopes this size or bigger, just because it was such a huge undertaking. It has to be so long as well. It's over 70 feet long, this telescope, and it's about 65 feet from the floor to the top of it. So it's hard to imagine that, but when you come to visit Yerkes, you can see it, and it's just a massive, really takes your breath away kind of experience. That telescope, it's still usable today. We have programs called Exploring the Night Sky, where people can come and look through the telescope. We have astronomers on staff who will help them see different things in the sky. It's a little different than it was here at the observatory when it first opened. There's more light pollution. We're working to kind of try to minimize that, and also there are a lot of cloudy days. So any opportunity we can get, we try to use the telescope in warmer weather, just because it's such a unique experience. And we don't do it year-round because it's very cold in the dome. It's not heated. And also the telescope is very sensitive to humidity and temperature and things like that, and we want to make sure that we're taking really good care of this piece of equipment, this remarkable bit of engineering that's been here since 1895. So that is the thing that kind of when people visit, it's sort of, they just kind of go silent in awe of this really amazing telescope. And yeah, that's really what put Yerkes on the map, was our great refractor.
Mm-hmm. So. And a lot of people might think that they have to know about astronomy to come here, but you have events for pretty much everyone.
Yes, so in 2020, an organization called Yerkes Future Foundation took this building over from the University of Chicago. The university couldn't really use it anymore. They'd been wanting to get rid of it, and some citizens of the community of Williams Bay, Lake Geneva, came together to save it. And now it's a nonprofit that runs it. And astronomy is definitely still part of the story we're telling. It's an observatory. Astronomy is the core of what we are, and we still have astronomers on staff who go out to schools, and students come here to talk to them about astronomy. We have an astronomer who's fixing the telescopes because there's a lot of engineering involved with them. So it's still a big part of our story. But like you said, we are here for people who don't know anything about astronomy as well, or who are not really into astronomy. We also have art programs. So we have a sculpture outside. We were hoping to do more of those sorts of public art displays. Music is another thing we really want to embrace here because it's such a beautiful space, and it's a great way to get people here who, maybe astronomy is not quite their thing, but you can watch an amazing concert, listen to an amazing concert in this great building. We've had concerts up in our dome where the Great Refractor Telescope is, and we also just a few weeks ago had a concert in the Rotunda. We had about 75 people in there. So embracing astronomy, art, architecture, of course, because that's another big part of this story. And then we have our arboretum as well. So the building sits on 50 acres of land designed by the Olmsted firm. So they also did Central Park and a lot of other really prominent spaces. And so the university had them design the grounds, and we're really bringing that back to life as well. We have hiking trails, and we have an apiary, so there are bees, very friendly bees. And there's just a lot of work being done to really embrace and encourage people to be outside as well. But like you said, we want everyone to enjoy Yerkes and to come here whether they like astronomy or not. So in a few weeks, on March 22nd, we have our first open house of the year. We have 4 of those, so that's a really great way for, if you've never been here, you just sort of want to take a look for the first time. It's $10 for adults, and we have, the skies are clear, there's viewing outside with the telescopes, and there's all sorts of activities and programs inside as well for all ages. And then another really fun one, which is a little bit more astronomy based, but is kind of a way to get us out in the community and sort of talk to people in this fun new way. At Doisterbeck's Brewing in Delavan on April 25th, we're going to have astronomy on tap. So there will be astronomers there talking to folks about what's going on at Yerkes, other news and exciting things happening in astronomy, but you can enjoy a beer while you listen. So it's a good one too for anyone who maybe wants to learn a little bit more about what's going on. So yeah, we have lots of tours, lots of programs, and like you said, you don't have to know a lot about astronomy to enjoy them. We want this to be a space for everybody.
And if you could touch on some of the major discoveries that have been made here quickly.
Sure. So maybe the biggest one is by a man named William Morgan. In 1951, he actually discovered the shape of the Milky Way here at Yerkes, and so that was huge. That was really big news in astronomy history. And he also worked on a classification system for stars called the MK classification system. So it is. It's actually still used today, but it's a way to organize and look at stars based on how bright they are and the temperature of them. And so there are all sorts of things that have happened here, and all sorts of really amazing people and astronomers who've been here. Subramanian Chandrasekhar was here working here when he received the Nobel Prize in 1983. Nancy Grace Roman is another person who was here. She was the first chief of astronomy at NASA. She did her graduate work here. Gerard Kuiper, who did a lot of work with the moon. And Carl Sagan, of course, was a graduate student here, and he went on to write Cosmos and Contact, and who really did a lot to sort of popularize, for lack of a better word, astronomy and astrophysics and really make it more accessible to people. So, you know, so much has happened here, so many amazing things, and so many great astronomers that we still talk about today, and their discoveries are still, you know, have shaped astronomy, and we're very, you know, very appreciative of all the people who were here and all the things that happened, and of course, all that makes Yerkes what it is today. And it's a story we're very excited to share with more people.
And if you could talk about the restoration process that's going on right now.
Sure. So as I mentioned, so 2020, the University of Chicago handed this building and the grounds over to the Yerkes Future Foundation, and they began an extensive renovation. You know, the goal is to keep this here for another 125 plus years and even longer. So historic buildings, it's an expensive process and it's a slow process, and we want to make sure we're doing it right. So every year there are new projects that we're taking on. There's some work that's going to be done this year on the dome as well. So lots to do, but we're very excited to do it. This organization, like I said, has only been around in this building since 2020. We didn't even open for public tours until 2022 because there were 2 years of just restoring work going on and making it so that we could have these public programs. So we've made a lot of progress in a short amount of time. And you know, there's staff who are very excited, volunteers, board members, the whole community is behind this place.
If you are interested in touring Yerkes Observatory, join them March 22nd for their first open house or April 25th for Astronomy on Tap.